So thank you for tuning in to Aspiring for More, Erie's podcast, show, whatever you want to call it, for all things business. I'm your host, Lewis, and today we've got quite the humdinger of a show. Two firsts for the show. Today we have two guests with us that are normally only one guest at a time, but we changed it up a little bit, and I kind of like the format, as well as we videotape the whole thing, so you can watch all the video content on YouTube on my channel, Louis Jaramita, Geramita, or you can just look up Aspiring for More, episode 4. This one's going to be. But enough of that. Let's get into the little intro of these two guys. So we've got Miguel Rodriguez and Matt Petruso, the two founders of Excel Erie. If you don't know what this event is yet, shame on you. Just kidding. But at the end of the show, we're going to be talking about how you can find out about this event, buy tickets, sponsor it, whatever you want to do at the end. So stay tuned for that. But these two guys have an incredible passion for business. You just oozes out of them when you're talking to them. So I'm hoping that you guys can take away some great nuggets of wisdom in this one. Two things that I took away is read a book and get a gym membership. Two huge things that all entrepreneurs should be doing. And you'll hear more about that as we start, but let's get into it. Alrighty guys, thank you for coming today and spending some time here in the studio.
Thanks for having us, man.
Well, it was my pleasure. You guys are helping me build this podcast up, which huge help, and you guys are great people for this topic of the podcast that I'm talking about to be interviewing. So I want to be able to pick your brain and hopefully get some information for other people to learn from you guys. But I want to talk a little bit about you guys in particular, kind of like not qualify you, but speak to who you are for the people listening who might not know who you are. So one of the first things that I noticed when meeting you guys is that you are very normal in the terms of like you breathe the same air, you drink the same water. I mean, you obviously have a switch turned on in you that makes you different from other people. But I kind of want to share with people talking about how anyone can do this if they want to. So if you could just talk about what your lives were like before you started on your first venture, your first business. That'd be awesome.
I'll take it from here, I guess, a little bit, just to dive in. I kind of call myself more of a late blooming entrepreneur because I was kind of lazy in high school, didn't really care too much about business. I just want to make people laugh and play sports and didn't really pay attention in school too much. And then, went to school and went to college and, went that whole route and ended up getting a 9-to-5. And I was like, you know what, I found out really quickly that it just wasn't for me. But I knew nothing else. Like, it's not something that they teach you of how to just go out and just start things on your own. So I tell this a lot. It's kind of like the metaphor of running that 4-minute mile with Roger Bannister, where they literally never thought it was possible for somebody to run a 4-minute mile. And it was the same thing of being an entrepreneur working for myself. I didn't know it was possible until it was done. When Roger Bannister ran that 4-minute mile, over the next year, I think a dozen people had broke that 4-minute mile. So for me, I had to see that it was possible. And I was lucky enough that my father was an entrepreneur. He had his own insurance business, and I just saw him do it. And then I kind of went from there and I just took the leap, and I worked for him for a few years. And then I got the confidence to start my own thing. I started buying real estate. I started my own insurance agency. I started going to conferences. I started reading different types of books that I never even thought I could, wanted to read. And it was just a different life that just completely unraveled in front of my eyes. And it like you said, it turned on a different switch in me. And that's kind of how, you have to see it. And that's how I got into it for sure.
Yeah, and very similar to Matt in the, like we were both, I think in high school, class clowns, right? Definitely loved sports, always loved being like in the crowd. So I was always very outgoing and I always worked hard. So to me, like out of college, I hopped right into the fitness industry because it was a passion of mine, right? And for the longest time, that's all I knew was just like grind for other people. And then when I eventually moved back to Erie, Pennsylvania, again, I read a book. It was called 3 Simple Steps. And one, never to read. Like, I don't know how I got through college, but I read this book, and in the first paragraph, it just said, like, you are an individual. Like, there's nobody else like you. And, like, that's literally where I had my awakening to, like, believe in myself. So yeah, we breathe the same air, we drink the same water, right? But it's like, I think what changed it for me was the belief in myself that I could do something for myself. So the belief, but then I also wanted my time. I wanted my time to be creative, right? To go on a trip, to travel, to spend more time with my family, right? And you know, a 9-to-5 job, like a salary job, wasn't allowing me to do that. And even though I was in something that I loved, my passion, my purpose, my destiny, like all those fancy terms started to just take over the hustle, the grind. So I ended up quitting my job after I got married.
Oh wow.
Yeah, we got
Perfect
married.
timing.
I was like, honey, I'm gonna start my own business. And she was just like, what? You know, like, but I was so sold on myself. And eventually, like, how you're going to start to get other people to believe in you and what you're doing is by actually showing them, right? So I feel like you have to first believe in yourself to really kind of just go out, man, and take that risk. Kind of like, you know, like you, man, putting on this podcast, like doing what you're doing and stuff. Like, this podcast is aspiring for more, right? It's like, I think we all essentially want that, but we got to break through that fear of doing it. And since taking that jump, man, I started that personal training business. I've become a nationwide youth speaker. Like Matt here, we both love real estate, so I have a real estate business as well. It's the number one vehicle to become a millionaire, right?
Real estate.
So, you know, we're not recreating any formulas there, but now we're looking to kind of inspire our community with what we're doing, you know, and the younger generation.
No, and that's huge. And I mean, just hearing your guys' story is inspiration enough. But if there's someone in your situation when you started, what would be, I guess, the catalyst that you would tell them that helped you flip that switch, get started? What do you think the biggest challenge for young people to start is?
For me, to be honest with you, and I think Miguel is the same way, is like you really truly have to be completely honest with yourself. And I was just honest with myself that I was miserable. You know what I mean? Like some people want to just, they just want to kind of gloss over the fact that their life is not that good, and then they just accept it. And I think accepting the reality of what it is right now is basically saying that it can't get better. Right. And that in itself holds people back from their potential more than anything else. And for me, it was just looking at myself and saying, hey, is this what you want out of your life? Is this all it's going to be? And accepting the fact that, okay, it's gotten me to where I am now, but if I want to exceed what I am today, I got to change something. And I have to make some aggression at myself because, hey, I got me here. Nobody else got me here. You know what I mean? So whatever I've done now, if I'm unhappy with it, be honest with myself. Be completely honest, and then just hold myself accountable.
Yeah, you can't lie to yourself. I mean, you can to a certain extent, but at the end of the night, you're going to look at that person in the mirror.
Yeah.
And yeah. Piggyback on what Matt said there. It's like being truthful with yourself. Again, for me, is like actually believing in myself, because I always had these thoughts of like doing stuff, but the fear of not being able to do it or what other people are going to think about me going to do something. Because I think a lot of the times, depending on what your circle is, not everybody's talking about going for their dreams or reaching for like the, you know, big things, right? So it's like everybody's comfort. Like, you know, you told us about like your previous job. It's like, hey, you know, not everybody was like down for me to like go do something else, right?
Yeah.
So and a lot of the times I feel like it just kind of you have to maybe even separate yourself from an environment or maybe even people. Gotcha. And I went through that transition. It was hard. Like some of the closest people were like, wow, you're going to become a rapper. You're going to like speak to students and this and that. Like, how are you going to do that? How are you going to pay your bills? You just got married. So to me, it was just like literally just kind of like reinventing yourself and being okay with the process and willing to make mistakes. I know that's a lot, but it's just like, ultimately, I think the belief is what's going to catapult somebody to that.
It's just. I mean, to kind of piggyback on that, it's the story that we're telling ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, I think so many of us get caught up in the old story of whatever we had in the past. Right. You know, I wasn't a good student. I'm not that smart. You know, I don't like to read. Well, why is that? Right. It's because you've told yourself that.
Exactly.
I mean, I never read a book in high school ever. I read a book a week now. You know. Because it's something that interests me. Exactly. But it's the story that changed my life. It's the story that changed what I thought about who I was.
Right. So I think there's a commonality here that you have to learn to read.
Gotcha.
And learn to love to read.
Love to read.
Because, you know, he talked about how he started reading a book. I think my big personal development switch was when I first read a book too. So
Gotcha.
I think that's another thing is constantly educating yourself in things that are going to help you develop, help you build confidence, things that aren't being taught like necessarily like in academia and school and stuff. We both agree here, man. I mean, I graduated 452 out of 500. You were
488.
Right. So it's like at the end of the day, like your paycheck or how much money you make or whatever your success isn't going to be based on your GPA. So I think the education system, and I don't want to go on a rabbit hole here, but
oh no, you're good.
Kind of puts that like fear in students to not make mistakes and not step out of the box to reach something, So
yeah, and I forget where I heard this from, but it was talking about how the school system is set up to produce people for like factory jobs, like line work.
100%.
Like, that's what it's meant to. It's not meant for you to break the mold and go off on your own.
Right.
It's just to help you keep driving the innovation.
Yeah. When the Industrial Revolution came around, that's basically what the cog was. You need to get basically this system in place where it held people back to be comfortable with just being bored all day.
Exactly.
Right? And being comfortable with that. And that's no longer what we have. We no longer need that. We need innovation. We need creativity. Mm-hmm. That's what spurs innovation. Right. That's what spurs everything that's going on right now is allowing us to not do what everybody else is telling us to do.
Correct.
So
there's a lot of resistance there. Kind of what you and I were talking about yesterday.
For sure.
Like resistance to step out of that norm.
Mm-hmm.
And there's going to be a lot of pullback. So another thing is just like to constantly like persevere and be persistent and just continue to just go. And slowly but surely opportunities will start to awaken.
Yeah. And it's not easy. And people want to, they got lucky. I'm like, no, I didn't get lucky. I knocked on thousands of doors, and people slammed doors in my face, and it was not easy. But I knew it was better than what I was going to be doing, working for somebody else.
Correct.
And I learned a skill, and I became good at something, and that in turn gives you so much more confidence to do anything else in the world. And Absolutely. I'm not saying like I want to be the best insurance agent in the planet, and if that's what somebody wanted to do, that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. But for me, it was like, hey, I can actually become good at something that I had no experience at. I knew nothing about insurance. I knew nothing about Medicare.
Right.
And now I've written a book on Medicare. I have 1,000 clients. Like, that's crazy, right? But now that allows me to basically give me confidence in myself to just do whatever I want.
Right, so that gave you confidence. Like, man, if I could do this, I could do anything.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I felt like when I'm on a plane to like Los Angeles or Florida to go speak at a middle school or high school. And then I'm in the moment, and then at the end of it, it's like, man, I'm doing this.
Yeah.
And it's just like, people are like, how like schools have like signs out in front of the school, and it's like nationwide speaker Miguel Rodriguez, and I'm just like, holy smokes. Mm-hmm. Had I listened to the people that like said I wasn't able to do this, those kids wouldn't have been inspired in me. I wouldn't have been able to like fulfill like a dream, so.
For sure. And it seems like one of the key takeaways is having that support group of people who are challenging you. And it seems like you guys are on that same level with each other, helping each other achieve. How did you guys cross paths? How did you guys meet?
Matt, did we meet in high school?
Yeah. So me and Miguel were actually pretty decent friends in high school.
Right. Okay.
And but like we'd hang out a good amount. But we were, like I said, kind of goofballs. Like we didn't.
There's only so many goofballs in a group that you have.
The relationship that we had in high school, and it's similar to most male-dominated or even female-dominated relationships nowadays. It's very superficial, So I don't think I knew much about Miguel other than the fact that he made me laugh every now and then, and that's about it. I didn't know anything about his struggles, about his family. I didn't know anything about that. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
Like as a high school boy, like we're not taught about how to speak about emotions, how to go deep, how to actually gain meaningful relationships with people to push them to be better. We're just like, okay, that guy has a special gift, or this girl doesn't have it, or whatever it may be, and that's all we know. We don't know how to go deep.
It was just like, hey, let's hang out with the popular kids at school, and like, not to boast about that, but it's like we had a cool group of, there were the soccer players, like Matt played soccer, I was like a baseball player, and we would just all hang out, right? And then so I think that's where we met, but like I think it was like 10 years, man, honestly, where we met. Just I think on Facebook I started seeing him pop up a little bit more, so obviously I sent him a friend request, And then literally at a grocery store, I was with my wife and kid, and he's like, hey, I'm starting this podcast. I was like, cool. I was like, hey, well, I don't know if I can do that day because I'm going to be going to Miami. He's like, I'm going to Miami too. I was like, yeah, I'm going to the 10X conference. He's like, so am I. I was like, sweet. So we ended up actually getting an Airbnb together. And then that's where like the reconnection and on a different level now of like respect of like,
Gotcha.
wow, dude, you're wow, I didn't know you were doing this. I didn't know you were insurance. Well, I didn't know you were a speaker. And then it's just like, so you want to surround yourself with people who are stretching themselves.
For sure. And kind of like what you were saying about how they're not teaching you how to do that with other people. It is a disadvantage because it feels like, to me, networking is so important. Yeah. So when you're going to college, networking with other classmates, so when they grow out, you have people that can help you do what you want to do. And it's a shame that in high school, it does seem like most people lose their connections with their friends out of high school, which is a shame because you can always go back to those. So for people who aren't in high school or aren't in college and have missed that boat, how would you say would be the best way to meet other people like that?
Well, that's literally what we're trying to figure out. Because, I went down a rabbit hole, so did Miguel in our businesses, because we didn't know this stuff. So when I went into insurance, all I knew of success was numbers, dollar signs, right? So I wanted to keep competing. And that's all, that's what the game was that we were taught. We were taught the game is win this game. And how do you win that game? By more numbers, more dollar signs. So I would just go hard, work 16 hours a day, just work constantly. And eventually I got just completely overwhelmed. And I really, really, really let go of all my relationships, like my friendships, my actual relationships. They all fell because I was so selfish in my own head, and I had nobody to. I honestly became resentful to everybody else because I thought I was working so much harder than everybody else that they didn't understand me, So they didn't deserve to be around me, and I was very resentful for that fact. And it was because I didn't have like-minded people around me that could help me kind of pull myself off that hamster wheel sometimes, and say, hey, Matt, I've been through that too. You know what I mean? I'm feeling the same thing. And that's why I'm so passionate about this, is because I went through it. I actually was, I was diagnosed as depressed, and I was taking medications because I was just working so hard that I had no idea that other people had the same struggles.
Wow.
Right.
So that's why, I started going to conferences, and I, really started to regain my confidence in humanity, that knowing I wasn't alone out there. Because I think a lot of entrepreneurs, for sure, if you do it for a while, you get caught up in it. You get caught up in it. And then
you fall into like the performance trap.
Yeah.
Of like, oh, I'm not doing this like I was 6 months ago or whatever.
Yeah.
And that will rob you from just the joyfulness of, living a fulfilled life.
The beauty of the creation of whatever you're doing, I wasn't celebrating anything.
No, he was just going. And like you said, you can fall into that trap. And to me, it was, I think I was kind of like the total opposite. Well, no, I think let's just be honest here. I think eventually like you do become pretty selfish.
Yeah.
When you're kind of going after what it is that you want.
You have to be, though.
You kind of have to be.
Some level.
And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think there's a misconception with that. I mean, you look at all these famous entrepreneurs. I think at one point they all were in that boat of like just going after what it is and kind of having that tunnel vision. And I think it's a challenge. And I think that's just one of the other obstacles or resistance that you have to overcome. And losing certain connections or relationships might be the cost of that.
Yeah.
And I think that's been true for as long as like success has been around, right? You read like Napoleon Hill and all these books and stuff. It's like that's kind of, I think, one of the trade-offs.
Yeah, and kind of what you were saying really hit home with me, because that's something I struggle with, is working so hard and then being resentful to other people who aren't working as hard but still achieving some level of success. Like I feel like they don't deserve, you shouldn't deserve that. And it's definitely a mindset that needs change, and I'm definitely working on it. But it is that thing where I find myself being more ready to go into competition with somebody than actually come alongside them, help them do what they're doing, and rejoice in their victories with them.
Yeah,
and
I think you'll feel better ultimately at the end of the
for
day
sure.
But it's not easy by any means. For sure. I think when you get away from the competition side of things, you look at, I think, just the business and market a lot different, and you look at people, how can I help them? How can they help me? And everybody's winning.
Yeah.
And there's a great analogy. Jordan Peterson, he's a great psychologist, that he basically says, competition is good, but what is the game that you're playing? We're taught the wrong game. So like, let's say for instance, he says if a hockey game. So if it's just one hockey game and you're trying to win that one game, what would be the best outcome for that game? You give the best player the puck and let him score, right? But what's the game? Is it just one game? No, it's a championship. Well, if it's a championship, well, you want to have camaraderie. You want to have teammates. You want to have communication. You want to have all of these things. But then it's not just one championship. There's a whole bunch of championships throughout your life. And how do you win a whole bunch of championships? You work together. You figure out that you're not the selfish one. You work together. Yes, you compete hard and you put as much effort as possible that you can, but you want to lift everybody else around you. And the whole game is continuous. So we're taught the wrong game, I think. And it's just a great analogy of like, how are you playing the game? And is the game ending at a certain time? And we're taught that the game is supposed to end at 65 or whatever, and you're supposed to ride home on, a ferry boat,
Yeah.
That's it. I promise you, I've been working in Medicare since I was 22 years old. That's not the end game, because I promise you, most of my clients are very unhappy when they have no more purpose at 65 and they're doing nothing.
Right.
And that's when they get the most ill, because they have no purpose, they have no drive, they have nothing to do. So the thing that we've been sold about there's an end game is completely a lie, because there is no end game, and the game is always continuing.
Right. I think life
is a game.
Life is the game.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think when you look at it from that big perspective, man, I think you'll be able to enjoy the journey a little bit more.
100%.
Personally, what are your guys's? What does the end look like as winning the game of life for you guys personally? That's
a great question, Lou. For me, honestly, now being a dad, being a husband, obviously that takes precedence over everything. Obviously, I think the biggest thing for me is I love continuing to reinvent myself, because I fell into that thing. It's like one of my biggest things was to become that nationwide speaker, travel the country, share my message, and obviously get paid for it, and doing it. And then once I was doing it, one of my best friends, Zach George, was like, "Hey, dude, so what's next?" And I was just like, for the the longest time, because I worked so hard to get there, I was just like, okay, I'm gonna write a book, and then I'm just creating these things that I'm not necessarily on fire for. That I don't know. I feel like that's why you always kind of have to go back to the drawing board.
Yeah, you always have to go back, and I'm the same way. I'm always trying to reinvent myself, and I never want to be, kind of categorized as one person in one area that's just good at this one thing.
Right.
I just kind of want to be a Renaissance man and just continuously learn, improve, and try something else out, and kind of figure out, do I like this? Does that fit my mood? Does it fit my expertise? Does it fit what purpose that I'm trying to bring? And when you said, what does the end goal look like for you for your life? I think for me, it's just well, did I do everything that I was capable of doing? And was I unlocking the potential in me? That's the big thing, is I think there's so much potential left out there for so many people. Right. It was literally crazy. I mean, I always... exercise and weightlifting is such a great analogy to this, because I like working out. Miguel likes working out. Obviously, he's a personal trainer, but there's always a couple more reps that we're kind of just holding out on.
For sure.
And
sure.
Like this morning, I literally was hanging on the bar. I have a shoulder injury, so I was just hanging on the bar, and I was like, I hung for a minute. And I was like, okay, I could let go. I'm like, wait, I'm good. I can hang on 10 more seconds, and then 10 more seconds. I'm like, you got 5 more seconds, for sure, right? Yeah. And then we
all always breaking barriers.
Yeah, man. It's such a great mental. The gym is the magic pill. People are like, oh, is there a magic pill to feel better? Live healthier.
Yeah.
Add more sex drive, have better relationships. Yeah, it's called exercise. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Pushing yourself, not just kind of showing up. And we all need that push, right? Golly, that's good. So David Goggins, right?
David Goggins,
Can't Hurt Me. Have you read that book?
No.
Read that book. I mean,
everybody read that book.
Everybody needs to read that book. We don't need to dive into that book, but essentially what he's talking about is your mind will stop at 40%.
Oh, really?
When you reach 40% of pain or just fatigue, there's still 60% left in the tank that you need to tap into. But your mind is always in that, fight or flight mode where it's just like,
let's go to homeostasis, right?
Yeah, we just need to like run and just quit. And dude, honestly, a lot of the times, and we fall into that. I think we always choose the flight. I think a lot of the times, as opposed to feeling that pain and pushing through. So it's like reinvent yourself, becoming a Renaissance man. I feel like for me, anytime I want to reinvent myself, I'm past like that insecurity of what people are going to think. I'm past of like, is this going to work? It's gonna work. If I choose, it's going to work. Like if I'm going to choose to do it, you know what I'm saying? I think once people are willing to accept the fact that like, hey, if you didn't do something or if you didn't achieve anything, you have to literally own it and be like, hey, the reason this didn't work out is because I chose not to do it, as opposed to blaming it on something else. Oh, the business or the economy wasn't good enough. Oh, people weren't supporting me. It's like, dude, no, like you just quit.
For sure. And I mean, you guys have been dropping, I've been like frantically writing notes on things I want to go
good
back
thing
on.
This is recorded.
What was the name of that book though?
David Goggins' Can't Hurt Me.
Can't Hurt Me. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I want to look that up, because that's really, because I was doing this study on like sleep and how your brain, when you don't get 6 hours of sleep, is like functioning as if you were like drunk. And it's like ridiculous on how much you can unlock on your mind. And kind of like you were talking about the one guy who ran that was 5 minute mile?
4 minute mile.
4 minute mile?
Yeah.
How once you unlock that says you can, there's no limit to what you can stop.
Correct.
But what I want to go back on is the whole Renaissance man that you guys are talking about, reinventing yourself. How do you do that without overwhelming yourself? Like without having too many irons in the fire, or do you not believe in having too many irons in the fire?
I think that's one of the things you have to be willing to kind of just accept, right?
There's like obviously there's balance.
Will fill though, right?
Yeah, there's balance. You need balance in life, and we talk about that a lot. That balance is most certainly important, but also understanding that, and sometimes in your life, you're going to be out of balance. You have to be out of balance,
for sure.
And that's how you grow too. Is like just accepting the fact that, hey, if I want to get into a real estate venture right now, well, I got to put a little bit more effort into that right now.
Correct.
If I want to write a book right now, I'm going to have to dedicate a little bit of time.
Something's going to sacrifice.
Yeah.
Something's going to be willing to sacrifice. And, you said it perfect right there, bro. It's like, okay, so with the PT business, if I'm traveling the country, right, like I did from August to basically Christmas, like I was on the road every week. It was incredible. But like that was my only focus. Right. I had to hire out some other trainers to help out with my clients. Okay. But now I may not be speaking as much, but like my personal training and the real estate business is kind of cooking. Right. And now we're putting on this event that we're going to be talking about. And so it's just, I feel like there's only 24 hours in a day. Right. Yeah. And, and there's family, there's other responsibilities. So it's like you have to be able to manage your time and then kind of just set your priorities straight and then be willing to, get some maybe not great feedback from something that's sacrificing.
Gotcha.
That's just me being honest.
Don't be afraid of that.
Yeah, I think, it's tough.
I mean, I still resent some people. I'm not gonna lie. Like I just think people are soft. You know what I mean? Like
for sure.
We're in a society where people are soft. You know what I mean? Like, and it's not their fault. And here's the thing: you have to accept that it's maybe not your fault right now, but it's your fault if you stay that way.
Correct.
Ooh. I was very, very soft. I didn't want to go knock on doors. That like you're 21 years old and like you have just got fired from your 9-to-5 job, and you're trying to be, you think that you're this something special, and I did. I was arrogant. I was fake confident. I was insecure, but on the outside, everybody,
I got this.
I was the stuff, right? But on the inside, I was super insecure, and I didn't overcome that insecurity until I actually had to fight my own insecurities. Nobody was going to give that to me. I had to go out and do it. And I had a chip on my shoulder. I was like, you know what? My dad did this. I'm like, I can do it. And you have to have something that's going to push you past that barrier.
That's good.
Because if you don't, it's very easy to stop.
Yeah.
It's very easy
because
to stop.
everybody gets knocked down. It just depends on how long that waiting period is until you get back up again to open your eyes for a new opportunity. I think a lot of people are either in a situation where people are telling them to stay down because it's safer, or they're just themselves convince themselves that.
Right. So it's a constant battle, I think, within yourself. Every single day.
For sure.
Every single day. To get up. I know 8:30 may not be the earliest thing. Like I get up at 5 or 6 some days, and most people 8:30 is like way too early for them.
And
whether we resent those people or not, I mean, my man's been probably up for like 5 hours, but that's a different story. It's just
it's not to go off on a tangent or anything, but like it has everything to do with your own. Like I don't care when anybody else wakes up. Doesn't matter to me.
Right.
Gotcha.
But I'm going to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning and I'm going to hop in a cold shower and I'm going to do my meditation. Then I'm going to go to the gym. And because I did that, I know that I'm a badass.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right,
I don't care.
right.
I don't care what anybody else is doing.
Sure.
It builds confidence in myself
Absolutely.
saying I could have slept in my bed.
Yeah.
I have nobody to wake up to. I have my own business. I can work whenever I want. But nobody's telling me I have to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Nobody's telling me I have to take a cold shower as soon as I wake up.
Yeah.
But I do it for me.
Exactly. And that has to be important to you.
And those disciplines like just transfer over to everyday life. So
Yeah.
And just that mindset of knowing that I'm getting better every day that I do this is something that I don't think a lot of people understand that's important. It has to be enough for you to do it and for you to get out of bed, or then who are you doing it for? Because eventually if you're doing it for someone else or for something else that's not you, you're going to get burnt out eventually.
For sure. For sure.
But it kind of takes me back to the whole, the analogy you said, the game that you're playing.
Yeah.
What are you playing for? When are you playing to? What are your thoughts on like, because I feel like in this culture, entrepreneurs are glorified as always on, always working, never stopping, always in that mindset.
Right. Social media life.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
You want to look like that ideal Instagram entrepreneur. And it seems like what you're saying is you need to know how to turn it off when you're with like your teammates, as you said. But what are your thoughts? Because it also seems like you guys are always on. What's that balance like, if there is one?
Well, to me, rest is key, and taking like if I'm resting, like I might be reading a book, right, or like watching Joe Rogan episode or something, that right, with Elon Musk. I'm always that's the trap for me. If it's like if I'm chilling out and resting, I like to be doing something that's going to be like benefiting my mind, right, or like watching something on real estate or just something like that, or spend time with my family, right. So it's not always like go. I mean, the reason you're able to spend time and relax is because you've been going, right? And
it rolls over in every area of life. It's like what are the stories that you're adding to your life? Like every time I'm at the gym, I'm thinking of it differently from the experiences that I had in other areas, whether it's my real estate business, the travel that I got, whatever it may be. But it's like, okay, this is a story of growth. That's the story that I want to tell myself, is the story of growth and improvement. Okay. So everything that I do, it kind of molds into that. So if I'm traveling, I can be relaxed as all get up, but I'm growing. Because I'm learning something, I'm taking in the spirit of the environment, whatever it may be. It's like I understand that aspect.
You're not like flying through the airport.
No, exactly. Like being very present.
For sure.
Being very aware that the game is now. The game is not in 20 years. Yeah. The game is now. Because I promise you, people get so caught up about this numbers thing, and I did too. But here's the thing: most people that have the most money are 80 years old, right? Just because that's time.
Yeah.
Right? But I guarantee you, the people that are 80 years old would give all their money to be back at 18 with no money. Because I would give all my money to go back to be 18 again.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean? So you just being present is one of the biggest things that I had to overcome. But I'm working on it.
That's a challenge for me right now, being present, right? So I think meditation's huge for that. And I miss it, but it's just kind of one of those things, being disciplined, and you're not, always on. I'm just going to be 100%. So,
and I think people tend to beat themselves up when they're not always on.
Right. And that's the thing. I don't beat myself up when I'm always on, because if you do that, then that's another form of the performance trap. Like Matt's example, if it's like, dude, if he didn't wake up at 4 a.m. and like, got the cold shower, did his meditation, went to the gym, right, before like 6 a.m., you may be like, crap, I didn't do that today. And it may have, whether this is true or not, I don't know. I'm just like, I know like when I used to wake up and like meditate and do a devotion and like pray and do all that stuff like religiously, like, because I'm a Christian, right? Like that would take precedence over like me actually just like worshiping Christ for a minute. Just the ritual of that doing checklist. It. Yeah, the ritual of doing it took precedence over like just spending time with God. And to me, that's when I was just like, dude, I'm doing this for the wrong reason. Where then if I didn't do it, I didn't beat myself up anymore. I just kind of made time for it at another time. That's why to me, like, I mean, I'm all about getting up early and grinding, but at the same time, I'm not going to let that affect, but who, that defines success for me. But yeah, you're right though. You do feel like a badass.
Yeah, and once again, it really depends on what your goal is. And I'm not asking everybody to be a crazy guy like me. You know what I mean? If that's not what you want, that's not what makes you happy, then albeit that's fine. That's not a big deal. But I just know that I'm capable of more. I have more potential in me,
Right.
and I know if I do things that are a little bit crazy and a little bit different than most people, it gives me more confidence. And that's all we're looking for,
bro. And it's
fuel.
contagious though. It's
fuel.
contagious, like hearing, like his morning rituals. Cause like, just yesterday, it's like, dude, I took a cold shower. He's like, it was awesome. But then I was like, well, like I actually still needed a shower. And he's like, well, to do this, do that. So it's just really cool to, again, surround yourself with people who are going to make you bigger and stuff.
For sure. There was something that I was going to doing some camera edits right now.
Yeah.
But it brought me to a topic that I wanted to bring up. Do you think this is for everyone? Do you think everybody should be pursuing this, or is this just for the people who are complaining about where they're at right now?
I think there's hunters and gatherers.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is evolution, at its best. And there's people that don't have it in them. That's fine. That's not a big deal.
And that's totally okay.
That's fine. We need
Gotcha.
people to gather. We need people to help. And
we need people that need help led.
Exactly. And that's not like I need a team.
Like employees are okay. Like
yeah,
I just knew I couldn't be managed.
Yeah, exactly. It literally is. It goes back to there's people that had to stay home and cook the meals, and then there's some people that had the genes of just like, I'm not going to cook anything. I got to go get this food, right? And that's what drives you. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I literally think that's in our DNA. There's genetics to it. So I was born this way, and it's been cultivated in me. Yeah. And I know that there's nothing else for me,
Gotcha.
But you don't know.
Never going back.
But it's unfortunate because I think all they teach us is how to be gatherers, right? Or how to work for somebody else. And
sure,
it's unfair because there's a lot of really, really creative and talented people that could be struggling right now. And if they have some type of itch that like, hey, I'm possible, like there's got to be something more for me. And I know there are. I talk to people all the time that like, hey, I just want to start something new. I just want to go out and but I gotta feed my family, right? It's like, well, how do I go out and do it?
That's where the sacrifice comes in.
Yeah, and sometimes you'd be like, well, I gotta work for a year and just basically buckle down and save some money. Like even when I was first starting out, like I was making good money by the time I was 22 years old, more than double most of my friends, and that all were way smarter than me. And I was living way, way less life. By the time I was 26, I could have bought any house I wanted, but I bought a duplex. And I renovated it, and I lived in the second floor. You know what I mean? When I could have went and bought that white picket fence house like everybody else, and I didn't. I said, well, what's my goal? My goal is not to be stuck in the machine and be a slave to money.
Right.
I never wanted to be a slave to money. That was, some of my really good friends would always make fun of me. They're like, oh, Matt, no slave to the money, right? Well, now, who's laughing?
Yeah, because they're married to a mortgage.
Or I get to work whenever I want. I have a I have a place in Florida. I get to travel whenever I want. And
I think that's the. I think people just they don't experience it. They don't ever get to experience it because they like
it's
you
sad.
Said, they fall into that trap because they're trying to keep up with
the Joneses.
Yeah, with everybody else. And man, it's difficult when you're like completely like I want to call entrepreneur, like on the left side of it, and then like everybody else is like, okay, I'm gonna go to work 9 to 5, boom, 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 grind it out. Like, okay, that's awesome. There's security there, there's comfort there, but like all of those like things don't like intrigue me because at one point I was that person, but I wanted so bad to be over here, right? So it's just you got to experience it, I guess.
One thing I kind of want to bring up is a lot of people that may have this feeling of how do I start something new and how do I actually monetize it, right? How do I actually support my family? And, people try to chase their passion first. And I think that's maybe wrong sometimes because you can't really figure out what you're passionate about until you've overcome the scarcity of not having to worry about bills. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so it's not like I loved the insurance business when I first started, but I knew it was a means to get me to where I needed to go. And I think, hey, wherever you're at, make the money however you need to make the money, but don't get caught in like, oh, I'm making $1,000 this week, I'm gonna spend $1,000. No, it's like, oh, I'm making $1,000. How can I live off of as little as possible?
Right.
So
backwards.
one point I can have cash flow paying me so I can figure out what I'm passionate about. So that's what I'm doing now. It took me 10 years to accumulate this. So now I'm able to put on events with my friend Miguel, be able to travel the world, be able to experience things, be able to write books, be able to, explore what possibilities are available to me. But it takes that exploration of having the security to know that I can do it now.
Yeah.
There
was the guy Mike Rowe. You might know who he is. He did
did
a graduation speech where he was talking about that, about not following your passion, but following the opportunity. Because a lot of people don't understand that, one, you can become passionate about something once you see the opportunity. Yeah. He was like talking to a guy who did like porta potty like cleaning or whatnot, but he had like a multi-million-dollar business in it. And he was like, I was not passionate about this in high school. Yeah. But once I got into it, I got real passionate about it. And now he can use that money to do whatever he wants outside of that.
Exactly. And like I was saying before, like Medicare is not the funnest, sexiest thing that you're ever going to talk about. But I saw that I was able to be good at it. I became laser focused, and I now help thousands of people understand a very confusing thing. So I became passionate about the purpose, not necessarily the job. And anything you do, there's a great saying. This is like, the way you do one thing is how you do all things. So if you're going to do one thing half-assed, well, what makes it that you're going to do the next thing or the next thing or the next thing 100%? No, just be good at whatever you're doing now and be great at it. And then you'll find the passion in the process.
Right.
Yeah.
The process, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I kind of went off. I definitely followed the passion for me.
Gotcha.
Which is good.
Yeah, but like I started a business with income. So it was like I was able to, like when I first left, the big box gym and stuff and started, Most High Fitness, I had paying clients. So like I did have a little bit of security.
Gotcha.
But that, we were living way below our means, like super frugal. We were saving every penny. But what I wanted before the money was I wanted my time.
You were a sugar mama.
Yeah, and I went, well, definitely it definitely helps to have more than one income. My wife owns a dance studio too, so we're both entrepreneurs. So it's really cool to kind of have somebody on your level too. But yeah, it's just I needed the time to create something that I was passionate about. So like literally, I probably like over 100 speaking engagements before I got paid for one. You know what I'm saying? Because like I believed in it so much, and then eventually like continued following those opportunities. Like flew out to California at this speaking conference event, and then a speaking agency basically like wanted me to come on board, and then that's what changed the game for me. But it was like literally sacrifice after sacrifice after sacrifice. Checking the bank statements and stuff like.
And it can be hard to follow that sometimes when you're not passionate about it. If you are just starting out and you're like not passionate about what you're doing, and you understand you need to put in the work before you get there. If you're not passionate about it, it can be hard to do that. So that is kind of a fine balance for people.
Correct. I just knew I wanted. Again, it goes back to that belief. I just believed in myself so much that like I knew I was going to make it happen.
Gotcha.
Because again, I was born for this, man. And I think when you start speaking to yourself that way, as opposed to like, man, I don't know if I can do this. Ooh, what are people going to think? Like those thoughts will literally handicap you from moving forward. So it all comes back to like those mental shifts, minor shifts, big changes.
Yeah, and there's two. I mean, I listen to Aubrey Marcus. He's the CEO. He started On It.
Okay.
But he's a beast. Yeah, he's a beast. But in his book, he actually talks about there's two types of people that you can either make money in your purpose, and that's great if you can find that. But then there's some people that just find they need a job to fund their purpose. So it doesn't work. It's not black and white. Life is not black and white. If you're lucky enough to find something that you're passionate about and make money doing it, then that's the greatest thing in the world, right?
Greatest thing.
But if if at the point in time where you need funds, well, you got to get the funds, figure out what you're actually passionate about, and then let that business fund your passion. And then that becomes passionate in itself because you know that, hey, I'm doing this because I have something greater to give. It's not just
It's way more fulfilling than a check.
Exactly. I'm not just doing this for the check to make sure I get a new coat of paint on my bathroom this weekend. That's not what life's about.
There's people that make a ton of money and they're not happy.
Oh my! I see them all the time.
That's why we're so pumped up about like this event and stuff. So I know we'll talk about it, but
yeah, for sure,
we're excited for sure.
And that's something that has really been something I've been looking into and really interested about is the amount of depression that's involved with entrepreneurship. I don't know if this statistic is correct, but I saw it somewhere. It was like 1 in 3 entrepreneurs deal with it. And I think a lot of it can be because they're chasing those numbers and those statistics that when they get to where they think they should be going, they're unfulfilled and they don't know what to do with themselves. So one of the things I like to do is talk about on here is what are some of your favorite failures? Because I think a lot of people feel like it's kind of taboo to talk about it and you need to present this always doing well business leader and like they're faking it till they make it. So that's something do you have a favorite failure? But what I mean by that is something that was a mistake but turned out to be for your benefit later down the road.
Honestly, before we even jump into that, I think every failure is a great
beautiful
thing. Oh my gosh, I love failing. I know that might sound crazy to most people, but exactly, something good comes out of it because down the road, that exact situation is going to come back up. But because of that failure that you had with it, you're going to be able to handle it differently, right?
Sure.
So, I mean, I don't know. There's been so many numerous occasions from being booed off stage to like getting like screwed over by a contractor on a flip, right? Or, just having clients not being happy with whatever it is. Because ultimately, you have to take the responsibility as being the leader, right? You can't blame it somebody else. So I think when you're willing to accept failures as part of the process and how they're actually going to make you better, it's going to change the game. And if you're not failing, you may not be actually like pushing yourself to actually go towards what you want to do.
Yeah.
That's
so
good.
I mean, I have a good one though. I do actually have a good one. It was when I was first starting out in real estate. I had a couple buildings and. One of my best friends from 7th grade, kind of came back into my life, and I knew he was kind of struggling at the time, and he did good construction work though, and I was like, I want to give this guy a shot. I'm like, he's one of my good friends, and I know he's going through some things, and I was just a little soft, right? And I ended up, giving him about $15,000 to do some work, and he basically stole the whole $15,000. It was a $15,000 mistake to figure out that, what, the world's not that nice sometimes, and it's fine, but you can't just expect everybody to be so clean and cut and do everything, and expect things to be just okay all the time. So it wasn't that, I was just overlooking things, but it was like, yes, I was being a little bit nonchalant on things that maybe needed to be a little bit more dove into, and from there on out, it just opened my eyes a little bit more of, okay, that's fine. I understand that most people are, not necessarily just all of a sudden selfish, but like we are human beings that have selfish motives and don't just rely on one person to, trust what you think should be done. You have to actually take responsibility for doing it yourself. And it was a costly failure, but it not only taught me about the business side, but also taught me about the friendship side that, you have to be, just because you've been friends with somebody for so long doesn't mean you can't cut them out of your life. So that was the best experience for me because not only did I learn about how to be a better businessman, but I learned how to be a better friend as well. And sometimes you can do all you can do for somebody, but if they don't want to help themselves, you can't help them.
Yeah, you got to be willing to kind of be upfront about uncomfortable and have those crucial conversations. I think that's just part of leadership, right? And then I look at mistakes as like paid education. I think that's a perfect example.
For sure.
It's $15K. I mean, I understand that was a hit, but now you've learned I think it saved you that much more money down the road because of that. So
some people, like I love it when people are like, "Oh man, I can't believe that. Like, how you gonna hold a grudge against them?" I'm like, "No."
Oh yeah, you can't take it personal.
I was like, "What do you mean? It cost me $15,000 to get rid of this person from my life." And okay, and then I look at it as, well, am I gonna only make $15,000 for the rest of my life? I'm like, no, I'm gonna do perfectly fine, and I know it's just a hit.
Right,
so
exactly.
I can't judge him for
learning process.
Yeah.
Dude, am I on mute?
No, it's just analyzing the output. This one would be mute. That would be terrible though.
No, whatever. I mean, we're good.
That's what I'm seeing. These
Matt's
things
dropping
working.
bombs.
We're just cutting Miguel completely out of the conversation.
I didn't know how to tell you before we started, but we didn't want you. Just all about
yeah,
that.
this is just straight. Matty P dropping bombs.
Usually is.
My bro.
But so I want to kind of get into some like tactical business advice a little bit before we get into the event.
Okay.
So this kind of goes along with the failure stuff, but what are some things when you guys were starting out in your business that you wish you knew that you think would benefit other people knowing, that's kind of universal about business in general, if that makes sense?
Don't focus on buying like business cards and like building a website before you have like clients and stuff.
Okay.
You know, when you actually have income coming in, like focus on providing like an actual good service. Giving value, like, all those fancy terms. I think many people get, like when they want to start a business, like they finally kind of got over like that hump of like belief. Like that's such a great victory, but then they get into like paralysis analysis of like, oh, I got to do all like these little like just odd and end like silly things, right? It's like, oh, I got to create my LLC the properly way. Like, oh, I don't have money for an LLC. It's like, okay, just go to the bank and create a DBA, doing business as whatever it is that you're going to do, just to kind of get you going. There were so many little obstacles like that for me. And then, just listen to like successful entrepreneurs. They were always like, it's just like the whole business card thing. It's like, people freak out about their logo and stuff. Focus on your service and your value.
Yeah, and I 100% agree. And I think the reason why I was successful when the statistic with insurance agents is a 92% fail rate. There's only 8% of 8% of people that get their licenses actually continue on beyond 2 years in the insurance business. And one of my friends that I interviewed on my podcast, he actually created a brand. He calls it 8% Nation, because there's only 8% of people that actually continue on in the insurance business. And the reason why I believe that I did was because when I first left the agency that my dad worked for, my dad didn't own an agency. He was just a manager. But when I was 26, I left and I had to start my own thing. I started fresh. I lost all my clients. I was brand new, but I knew all I had to do was go get clients. That's all I had to do. You know what I mean? So I went out and I started knocking on doors again. That's all I did. So I wasn't worried about the DBA. I wasn't worried about the LLC. I wasn't worried about the corporation. Yeah, right. Those things came, but they came after the fact that I already had built up my clients.
Right.
Because clients are everything, and that's all it is. We're in a business of servicing people in this world. If you're not providing value to anybody, you do not get paid. So provide your service, and people don't know who I am. They're not just going to be calling me up, begging me for their, my advice. So I have to go out and make sure that they are aware of me,
Gotcha.
So that's all it is. You make sure that you know what you're talking about, and then you go let everybody know that you can. You shout it from the rooftop that you can help them.
And one thing that you're talking about is getting clients. And I think that's something that a lot of people, when you ask them, well, who's your ideal client? Anybody who needs my help. Like, how do you define who your client is, who you want to reach to? Should you always go for the higher end people, or should you focus on, like, how do you define where your services line up?
That's a great question. I mean, for me, just talking, speaking engagements for the most part was, schools, right? So that could be the principal, that could be the PTO leader, that could be the counselor, that could be, even student counselors. So it's like, I know those are the people that I need to connect with, right? For my flipping business, it's first-time home buyers or people who are downsizing, right? Personal training business, people who could afford personal training, right? I don't want to have to personal training at the end of the day is a luxury, right? So there needs to be, so I'm not going to be pitching people who, with no offense, I hope people don't take this wrong. It's like, I knew that I wasn't going to be working at like a Planet Fitness or something, trying to sell personal training there. So I know for that, maybe I guess it's a little bit more high end for me, but it's and then once you get to a certain point, I'm able to actually like choose who I want to be my customer or who I want my client to be, right? Because at that point, once you get to that point, you're just like, you're the one that's in control, right? And to me, that was very liberating, but it took a lot of time to figure that. I was just chasing, I was just chasing anybody. And then at the end of the day, it's like, or like trying to get like any tenant in a unit. And it's just like, no, you have to pick the right person that's right for your business. Just because they're paying you doesn't mean that's the only thing. You have to deal with this person on a regular basis. You have to communicate with them. And if they're not willing to buy into your vision, it's going to be probably harder on you.
Yeah, and I actually went through that a lot. It's tough in my field because obviously it's a specific demographic that we're already targeting. But I did actually end up getting a little resentful towards my clients even, because they didn't appreciate the service that I was actually providing them. And now when I talk with people, I blatantly tell them, I'm like, listen, I could educate you on everything about Medicare, but I know you don't want to learn that. So the people that I want to deal with are the ones that understand the value that I provide and then just accept that they trust me to do it for them. Gotcha. They don't want me to educate them. And for years I was trying to educate people on what I knew and shove all my information that I knew on them. But at the end of the day, they just want you for what you're good at. So I became much more transparent about that, as saying, hey, I can help you. I know I can help you, and I'll show you why I can help you because I am very good at this. But the reason why I am is because I spent a lot of time doing this, and every day I think about it. So if you want to do that and you want to worry about all the intricate details about Medicare and all the details about everything that, really is very, very not important to you, then I'm probably not going to be able to be the best agent for you because those are things that you don't need to worry about, and you're probably just going to add stress to your own life. And if you, my job is to reduce the stress from you.
That's actually a powerful tactic right there, man, because you're giving them an ultimatum of like, hey, you can continue to be oblivious to this, or I could be your quarterback.
Yeah.
I even took my mom with him, to go and get Medicare and stuff. And it was just amazing because nobody knows anything about Medicare, right? So we just need to go and go to the professional that knows how to do it. And I think it's definitely a market that is very needed.
Yeah. I tell my clients, like there's so many, like I call them seminar hoppers, so they go to seminar after seminar trying to learn everything there is about Medicare, and then they confuse themselves more. And I go, my job is to make sure that you never, ever have to go to a seminar again. Because all you have to do is call me, and I'll say, hey, this is what you need to do.
Correct.
And then you either trust me or don't. If you don't trust me, then to be honest with you, I'm lucky enough where I'm in a position now where I don't need any more clients, but I can work with the ones that I want to work with. But it takes time to hone your skill and become good at something. But yeah, so.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to a lot of self-confidence in what you're doing. Because if you don't feel confident that you know what you're doing, then I feel like you could be on that track where you feel like you need to tell everything you know to prove yourself.
Yeah, sure.
Or
it's like a sign of insecurity almost.
Exactly.
But you have to help a lot of people at first.
Yeah. For sure. But I mean, it should be like natural for you to just be able to talk about your product. Like, I was speaking at a group of personal trainers this past week at a gym in Cleveland, and we were talking about sales. We were talking about Robert Cialdini, a lot of that I threw out there. But I was just talking to like a lot of these young training directors. It's just like, hey, like you need to have the confidence. You need to be enthusiastic. And you need to love whatever it is that you're selling so much that like it feeds off to that next person, right? You shouldn't sound pitchy or anything. You should just be like so sold on whatever it is that you're saying that they want to be a part of it. If they're not buying or jumping into your business, then you didn't do your job of like just enthusiastically selling it. So I think that's huge. You really got to love what it is that you do.
I tell my guys that work for me, I say the best persuasion is truth.
Ooh.
Truth is the absolute best persuasion because you're never caught up in a lie.
Right. Yeah.
When you're caught up in a lie, you have to try and convince yourself of that lie. And then it just compounds. If you're telling the truth, I know for a fact that I'm going to help this person way better than they'd be able to help themselves.
Yeah.
So that's the truth. I'm not being
That's a tough snowball to unravel if you're going on a lie.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Or just being unauthentic. People could sniff that out too. Like
it's so easy now.
Being ungenuine.
Before you could do that.
Or really pitchy. You know what I'm saying? Like, you get, how many times do you get a random phone call from like a random number trying to sell you something? Me as a salesperson, like I kind of like love being pitched anyway. So I'll hear it most of the times, but it's just like, I almost want to just be like, hey man, I'm not gonna buy your product. Can I give you some tips?
Yeah.
It's like, please don't get offended here, but maybe this could help you. You know, I'm not trying to say that like I know it all, but it's just like I know when I'm being sold something, and it's coming off like unauthentic. I'm just like, I'm more turned off by what people are saying, how they say it, than what they're saying.
Yeah, it's just
Gotcha.
you're talking to another human being. I
It's
think
like,
people forget that all we're doing is we're trying to help other human beings. Like, stop being a robot trying to talk off a script.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. And be willing to ask the $1 million question of like, hey, can I, with your permission, can I please pitch you? Or like, with your permission, may I please present this to you? It changes the perspective. Like I'll do that now after 10X. It's like, it changes the game. You know, it's like, hey, with your permission, can I present to you my event? You know, and they're like, yeah. It's like the more yeses, the closer you are to get to the main yes. So
yeah, and once I feel like people put up their wall because they feel like they need to sniff out when someone's trying to sell them something.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's like you completely eliminate that thing. It's like, hey, I am going to pitch you something, so just be prepared. You know, I'm the one that's vulnerable up here because I'm standing in front of whatever X amount of people, and I'm presenting something to you that I've never done before, right? Yeah. but I believe in it.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
That's truth.
Now, I do want to get into the conference now, and I want to talk about it. But while we're talking about this conference in Erie, why did you want to bring this to Erie? Why not go to Pittsburgh, Cleveland?
You want to take like the ticket stuff,
the
financial aspect of it, and then maybe
yeah. So, I mean, I know that it's changed my life. Me and Miguel have talked deeply about it. How networking, masterminding is really just it changes your outlook. Being able to talk to like-minded people, spitball, feel how other people are doing things, just see things, and it's just I just have seen it literally over the past year. I joined a mastermind group. I've traveled over the country. I've spent over $20,000 on masterminds and other events and things like that. So I know that it can get costly, and I know there's a lot of people that don't have those type of funds that may be available to get that type of exposure per se. And like I said before, it all comes down to belief, and you get belief from seeing it. So what we tried to do with this event was bring people in that we truly are inspired by here in Erie, local entrepreneurs that are basically the epitome of what we believe to be how this city will be better. I'm like, well, how can we get people that don't have maybe a couple $1,000s to travel? Maybe they don't have the funds to go across the country, join a mastermind group where, they can influence other people with whatever they believe is true. How can we bring that home? We wanted to bring that home. So we created Excel Erie purely for the fact of a little bit selfish reasons too, with selfish reasons for the fact of how can we bring these people that have like-minded minds like us, and how can we influence the whole community as a whole to basically better ourselves, and do it in an affordable way and bring it home. That was my motivation behind it. And Miguel, I think, was on the same boat.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, man.
There you go.
Okay.
Set that up for you.
All right.
I didn't even do that.
Let's see here. Oh, I love this thing. Okay. Well, that was an amazing presentation. But so we were down at the 10X conference. Again, investing in ourselves. The biggest thing that, I don't know if this will work. I really I like that pitch that Matt did there.
There was no pitch.
Huh?
Always a pitch.
So you talked about basically how
the cost.
Yeah, I mean the cost is like, okay, it could be pretty ridiculous. Like when I'm speaking in front of people, it's the VIP ticket down to the one event was $2,500. My flight down there was $400. So now we're at like $3,000, right? Our hotel, food, entertainment, whatever. You're basically like close to $5,000, right? An investment in yourself. So I was willing to do that, but I know most people aren't willing to kind of take that step, especially somebody who hasn't really experienced life of maybe kind of stepping out of their comfort zone. So that's why we wanted to bring it to Erie, here, our hometown, really cool venue. So we kind of set the tone for it to be legit, right? The Bayfront Convention Center. We wanted to gather people who are doing it here in Erie, Pennsylvania. So we have local, business owners in real estate, in the fitness industry. My wife's going to be one of the speakers too. She owns a dance studio, and just kind of not necessarily just talking about business, but, trying to talk about that balance and the importance of the biggest thing I think for this event is going to be the people who are going to be coming to the event. Right, the person that you're going to be sitting next to. So the networking opportunity is what's really going to kind of put this to the next level, because these are the people that you're going to be able to text. If nobody has that circle of people who are pushing them, maybe this is the event where they could come and meet those couple individuals who could potentially offer that person a job, right? Or just be somebody that you can text and be like, hey, I'm going through a tough time right now. I kind of need a pickup. Hey, come to the gym with me or something, right? That's what this is about. We want like-minded individuals. I feel like Erie has always kind of had this negative connotation with improvement on yourself. Okay, we're a big gym town, but I think when it comes to spiritually and emotionally and mentally working on yourself, it's something that hasn't been tapped into. And besides health and fitness, man, honestly, before you decide to get healthy and fit, your mind needs to accept that. And if your mind isn't strong in that, capability, that's why we wanted to do this. We want people to think more about just the all around health, wealth, love, and happiness, right? Remember, somebody's super rich, but they're not happy, right? Somebody's got a great relationship, but they don't have the job to support that relationship. So I think we all could improve in those areas, and essentially that's why we're putting this event on, man. We want Erie to be surrounded with like-minded individuals. It's powerful.
Yeah, and it's important.
And they did a study. I think it was in the past 20 years, maybe 20 years ago or so. They asked, how many people do you have in a deep, meaningful relationship that you could actually talk about something? If something bad in your life happened, how many people could you actually turn to? And it was around 5 people about 20 years ago. They asked that same question, and now it's less than 1. Most people have less than 1 person that they actually can rely on to dive in deep.
It's not enough.
And it's not enough, So it's because, we're so hooked on, social media, where as human beings, we're social beings. We're social beings. We're looking for connection at all times. But Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, these things are just a platform for us to communicate, but it's not enough. It's not enough. You need real life interaction with people.
Exactly. You need real connections.
You need real connections that's deep and meaningful, and that's why the depression rate has actually skyrocketed over the past 50 years. Our income has doubled. Our living, everything has bettered over the last 50 years, except for our depression has skyrocketed. That's crazy, right?
That's ridiculous.
It's because we're becoming less connected. There's a great book that I'm reading right now. It's called The Lost Connection. And he went through depression just like I did, and it really has everything to do with it. Right. We're told that it's a lower dosage of serotonin in our brain, and you need a chemical imbalance drug to change that, and it's completely false. It's completely false. Yes, there may be a lower amount of serotonin in your brain, but the way that that's actually produced is you create it. You create
exactly. Yeah, there's no drug for that.
There's no drug.
That's that book that I was literally talking about. It's your brain is triggered by all those things.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this event is just especially younger people too. I think we want there's college specials and high school whatever specials that
we have three different tiers of seating, so anybody can come. We want this to be available to everybody, and honestly, if you can't afford the ticket, please reach out to us. We will give you a ticket.
Right.
We're not trying to make money off this event. We want people at the event. We don't care. We are coming out of our own pocket thousands of dollars to put this event on.
Correct.
I'm not trying to make money off it. I make plenty of money doing the other businesses that I run.
Right, we just talked about multiple sources of income.
Yeah, I don't care. But the fact of the matter is, if you are truly in a spot where you're like, you know what, I wanna go, I can't afford this, reach out to me or Miguel. I will give you a ticket. I don't care. I want you to go. So
we want you there.
But I know when you pay to play, you take it more seriously.
For sure.
And when you pay attention. So that's why we obviously put a ticket price on the event. And I have no problem charging people. I spend tons of money on self-education. So I believe it's definitely beneficial. So if you can pay for it, buy the ticket.
You want to tell them the price breakdown?
Yeah. So right now We have student admission for $47, but we have a buy one get one special going right now.
So it's actually $23.50.
Yeah, $23.50. You can come to the event, and it's a full day event that you're going to be able to network. You're going to see local entrepreneurs talk about success, balance, how to just basically live your best life, and that's literally what we're trying to do. And then we have general admission tickets for $97, buy one get one right now. So under $45 or whatever, under $50,
correct,
a ticket. And then we have VIP seats. So if you actually want to get and go a little deeper and connect with the speakers that we have involved, get a luncheon with the speakers, and actually dive a little bit deeper and connect with the people that are maybe 10, 15 years ahead of you, then you need to buy a VIP seat.
Correct.
It's $197 right now.
The VIP seats are actually going through
buy
pretty
one,
crazy.
yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, people are buying them for sure.
Yeah, most people are actually buying the VIP right now, and we do have a limited amount of seats on the VIP right now. So go to excelerie.com. Check out the event. You'll see the lineup of the speakers that we have right now. They're amazing speakers that I genuinely am inspired by these speakers, and I'm so happy that we're able to get them into the event, and they're just going to bring it. And it's truly is like, if you can know these people and if you can learn what they've gone through in a day, why would you not pay that?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
Like, I will pay that all day.
Right.
Tony Robbins talks about a book, about reading. He goes, you can compact 10 years of somebody's life that they dedicated to their expertise, and you can learn in a book. Well, we're doing even better. You're going to learn right from the source. So you're going to learn from people that have created their own business, took 10, 15, 20 years to get to where they're at, and you can talk to them in person.
Right. And you can meet with these people, after, the event. If you make a connection with somebody, right? Matt's a part of a mastermind. I have mentors. Like, there's mentorship opportunities where these individuals, whether they're going to be in the audience or they're going to be on stage, are open to meeting with individuals on a regular basis and coaching them and helping them develop. It's like, a wise man learns from his mistakes. A smart man learns from his mistakes. A wise person learns from the mistakes of others. So like, you could literally save 10, 15, whatever years of just going around it the long way. And then this person will literally just kind of walk with you. So there's going to be opportunities for more than just this event. We want this event to be like something that's going to inspire, motivate, but catapult that individual to literally Excel Erie.
Yeah.
Right.
You can always tell who the pioneer is, because he's lying face down in the dirt with arrows in his back. So why would you want to be the pioneer? Yeah. Learn from the person
with the arrows in
his back.
Right. That's good. Yeah. But you got to be willing to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
If
you're not dedicated to be, this is where it just gets blunt. You know what I mean?
Right. Go.
If you're not dedicated to spend a little bit of money on yourself, you're probably not gonna go too far.
Or even,
and it's not like, I'm not trying to be rude, but
have the courage to email us and just be like, hey,
exactly. I don't care about the money.
Don't be embarrassed about not being able to afford a ticket. Like,
we
totally get there. We were that person one time. But if you're having a hard time and you can't afford this ticket, then you need to come to this event.
Yeah. And I told you, I will gladly give you a ticket. I don't care. Yeah. But if you're, but I want to hear it. I want to hear you. Have the courage.
At least,
step up.
At least put the skin in the game that you need help.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the way I look at it is there's people that probably won't come because they're not in content. They're okay with how they're living, and that's totally fine. If you're happy with that.
Again, it comes down to figuring out who your client is.
But if you're the type of person that's sitting at your office and complaining, and you pass up this opportunity, you have no reason to complain.
For sure.
Because you're not doing what it takes to stop complaining. You just enjoy the complaint. So that would be my thing, is if you're a person who's like, I don't want this anymore.
Yeah.
Don't say that unless you try something like this.
Right. And those are the individuals that we're kind of trying to stay away from.
Oh, really?
Well, if they're just complaining and they don't want to take action,
and they're making fun of their friend for going,
they're not going to come anyways. So those are not, and that's why you have to be when you were talking about like your perfect avatar, right? Who's your perfect client? Well, our perfect client is somebody that knows that the value of this and they want to come. So I'm not here to pitch anybody if they're like on the fence about it. If you're on the fence about it, then you should come. But if you're just going to complain about it, don't come.
Right.
Don't come.
Yeah.
That's all right. We'll be all right. I promise you.
I'll be okay. We're going to be great.
I'll be okay.
It's just reaffirming the fact that this isn't for you guys. This is for you to give to other people.
Yeah.
And if we're coming off like maybe to some people not in a cool way, we're just passionate about this, man. Yeah. Because we knew that personal development.
If I want to spend the day with somebody, I want to with somebody that's going to actually gain from it. Not somebody's like gonna like. I'm putting myself out there. I'm going to do a keynote presentation about my life and on the ups and downs of my depression and on what success is and how I can reinvent success in my own life. And I'm going to be very vulnerable.
Yeah,
and
he's stretching himself.
And if somebody's going to be there that's not going to be comfortable with that or going to maybe try and pick me apart for being vulnerable, I don't want them there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm putting myself out there.
For sure.
So that's all right. I'm going to be a little brash about it.
Yeah.
And the cool thing that I do really like about this event is it's different from other events because it is local. All these people who are speaking, you can go to afterwards and find them in town. You'll run into them at a grocery store, at a bar. Like, these aren't people that are flying in that are going to leave afterwards. Mm-hmm. These are people doing it alongside you and with you, which
proximity, man.
Exactly.
Got to be in there.
You got to be with those group of people who are going to help you thrive. Now, and I do want to kind of get through some things before we just go too long on this podcast, because people will probably start fading off towards the end.
Love it.
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot of nuggets.
Yeah, there's so many nuggets in this. But I want to just talk real quick about the process of starting this. What are some challenges you guys are facing organizing this? Some cool things that you're learning yourselves? Like,
me and Miguel we're those type of people. We've done enough things that we have enough confidence in ourselves that even if it does fail, which it's not going to, we already have a good amount of people coming. It's going to be great. Mm-hmm. But even if it did when we first started, we knew that it was like we just had to book it. I told Miguel, I was like, we started getting into like the minutia things, and I was like, all right, let's just book the venue right now.
Right. Let's just do it.
I was like, let's just book it before we knew anything, before we had the speakers, before we knew anything.
Yeah.
So that's what you do. You dive in.
Right. We like when we were asking our speakers to come on board and either be a panel or a keynote speaker. They're like, well, what's the event about? And our message may not have been as clear at the time. That's However, had we spent all the time focusing again on the business cards, on the logos, on blah blah blah, it would have prevented us from getting people on board.
And this is one thing too. The reason why the speakers are speaking at this event with us is because we have built up relationships with these people over the years.
Right.
And because we have already networked with them and they're already our friends and they trust us, and because of the work that we've already done, they trusted us enough.
Right.
They trusted us enough to go with us.
And they believe the vision.
They believe the vision.
They like us. They've networked with us, but they love the idea because everybody wants to better their hometown.
Yeah.
Right. So they're on board. They've bought in, and now having their support, now their network comes. Right. And then their network comes. So it's like we're trying to multiply this to as many people as we can possibly can. But yeah, it's gonna be incredible, man. The challenge is just again, how many things can you have cooking at once? So it's just like what's gonna take priority. Right. So again, it's kind of always just having that discipline, that sacrifice too. Just always plant the seeds.
And we do have some sponsorship available still too. So if you do, we have some great sponsors so far. But if you're interested in sponsoring, each level we have a silver, gold, and a platinum sponsorship level. Silver, you get 5 general admission tickets, name on a T-shirt, name on the banner at the event for $250. We have a gold sponsorship, which is a $500 contribution, and you do get
you get four VIP and 4 general
admissions. Yeah.
So that right there,
you can bring your team. The purpose of this, like I said, is so we can get people like-minded individuals that want to improve. And obviously, our platinum sponsorship will give you 5 VIP seats and 5 general admission tickets. Name on the you get private. A private lunch. You get private.
Private lunch. Access to the speakers and all that good stuff.
So all types of. If you want to reach out for the sponsorship, just reach out to me or Miguel, and we'll shoot you the info.
The sponsorship is a great way to get your team involved to come and do something together.
Yeah.
Whether it's like your sales team, I know right over here at Fast Signs they're thinking about coming down. So that's what, and then that just puts more people in the room to network.
Yeah. For sure.
That's where the magic's going to be happening in the networking.
And if you want your team to grow, you can't let them stay in a negative mindset either.
Correct.
You want them to be creative. I want my teammates, to always be thinking of new things. And I'm not the end all be all. I don't know everything.
Yeah, you got to come in and get exposed.
So my whole team, so I got 6 guys on my team that are all going to be there, and so it'll be great.
That's awesome. Now, is there anything else about this event you would like to talk about before we get to the final question? Anything you think people need to know, or you think you got that covered?
Yeah. So I think our formula for this was focusing on the good life, right? Health, wealth, love, and happiness. You really can't have one without the other. And I think everybody in this room can improve into any single one of those. So that's what it was about. It's going to be 4 keynotes, and we're going to have 2 panel, engagements happening, live Q&A. But essentially it's going to be cool to break each aspect down, get down to the nitty gritty about what it's like to live in Erie, Pennsylvania. And just ultimately, I think we're just going to learn and grow together.
Yeah.
That's what we want this event to be
we
about.
definitely want the event to be focused on all those things, and you're going to learn from those things. And it's going to be a great event to just, inspire you and fuel you to know that there are people in town that have similar thoughts, beliefs, goals as you do as well. Because like I said, when I was starting out, as an entrepreneur, it can get pretty lonely out there and thinking that you're the only one that has that type of mindset. And even if you're not an entrepreneur, you just want to feel better and grow and get healthier and have a better relationship, make a little bit more money, that's fine too. But the proximity of being in the place with these people at the same time will be well worth it. And the part of that is we have an after networking party at the Bourbon Barrel that we're all going to get together, and we're just going to be human beings connecting.
Yeah,
right?
It'll be more like laid back, but that's where the real connections can happen and stuff.
Yeah.
Have a cocktail or whatever, some hors d'oeuvres. Like, it'll be a good vibe.
Yeah.
Awesome. Now, last thing I want to leave with, I just do this pretty much with all the podcasts, is, and it's kind of unique to you guys because you'll be in this situation, but if you're in a room full of entrepreneurs in Erie in particular, and you guys get to leave a message that they're actually going to take in, what would that message be to that group?
Believe in yourself.
Believe in yourself.
Yeah, change your story, change your life.
No, yeah, that's good stuff. And I mean,
I just feel like it's short and sweet, man, because there's just so much breakthrough that can happen when you finally believe in yourself. I mean, I think you had to eventually overcome some fear when you started this podcast,
for sure.
right?
This was not comfortable for me.
Yeah, which is great.
Right, but like, look at you now, man. I mean, you're cruising. And
Well, I appreciate that.
yeah, for sure. So, believe in yourself. Be kind to yourself. I think.
Be honest to yourself.
Be honest to yourself. It's just like you. Yeah, exactly. It starts with you, man, and that's literally like my message when I talk to kids. It's like, everybody wants to stop like bullying and stuff, but it's like, I think the problem a lot of the times is it's like these kids aren't being nice to themselves, right? So that's why I show is like, hey, believe in yourself, be nice to yourself, and then change will happen.
That's awesome. And I'm sure we'll expound on this at the event. So if you're interested to learn more, please buy a ticket. That'd be awesome. See you there.
www.excelerie.com. What is that? excelerie.com.
Yeah, and you can follow me on Instagram or Facebook at Matthew Petruso, and you can follow Miguel
at Miguel Inspired on Instagram. That's probably the best way to connect with us.
For sure, and definitely do that. And if, like you said, you have problems getting a ticket, reach out. Don't hesitate.
We'll hook you up with a ticket.
Awesome.
Yeah, literally.
Great.
Well, thank you guys so
Thanks
much
for
for
having us,
stopping
man.
in.
Awesome.
This is so much fun.
Yeah.
Look forward to
That was
seeing how
perfect.
this event progresses,
For
and
sure.
hopefully see all you guys there.
All right, peace.
Bye.
See ya.
Now, let's be honest, that was an amazing podcast. I learned so much, and I hope you guys got as much as I got out of this. And if you guys want to learn more about Miguel and Matt and what they're doing, or get tickets to the event, please follow them on their social medias that they laid out for you at the end of the podcast, as well as go to Excel Erie to get your tickets for this event, or if you want to promote it, reach out to those guys as well. I highly recommend you turning up to this event, and I hope to see most, if not all of you there. Also, side note, I would like to say, if you or someone you think would be a great fit to be interviewed for this podcast, or gonna throw something new out there for you, you want an event covered or promoted, kind of like I did here for the Excel Erie guys, I would love to be a part of anything that you guys have going on. Please just contact me at eriespodcast@gmail.com. Let's say that again. Eries with an S podcast@gmail.com. You can reach me there. I'd love to hear from you guys, or even if you just have a review, something you would like to see here, let me know. I'd love to hear from you guys. Also, a special thanks for Cam for having this podcast in the studio that I've been recording in currently as we speak. And if you are someone who either has a podcast or have always wanted to start a podcast, I highly recommend you checking these guys out at camerie.org. They have all the setup, the equipment, the expertise to help you get started with your podcast or take your podcast to the next level. I can't express how amazing it is, and there's really nothing else I have to say about it because you will find out once you do some digging for yourself. So then again, thank you guys for listening. This has been episode 4 of Aspiring to More.